This is Gateway City Sports.
It's a trap!
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
This is the Team of Rivals podcast.
Everything you want to hear from the big sports to the big screen.
He's all by himself, fires into the end zone. Caught! Touchdown! No!
Vaughn into the windup in his first offering. Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed.
Doesn't like you. I don't like you either.
Time winding down, Michael for three. Yes! She is gone!
I can't believe what I just saw.
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy! You believe in miracles? Yes!
You may fire when ready.
What?
All right, everyone, welcome back to this week's show. This won't surprise you. We don't have all three of us here, but this will surprise you. Elliott made his way onto the show this week. Our permanent occasional guest host is here, and our guy who's usually growling out the intro and getting his spittle all over his own microphone. Man, I will never get near that thing. Pete is out this week. He's got he's just traveling. He's traveling for leisure right now, so hopefully he's resting and relaxing. With us tonight, we have the host of the 2 for 3 podcast, one of our Gateway City sports shows. He's joining us, Mike Stephenson. But yeah, I'm not going to try to recall or remember everything that Pete does here at the beginning. But if you want to check us out, you can check us out on teamofrivalspodcast.com or at gatewaycitysports.com. Lots of good blog content, shows, including Mike's 2 for 3. That's a winter podcast. Talking sports on the bleachers with Don Glenn. And I think maybe, hell, I don't know, XFL ST. I'm not even sure that thing's going on anymore, but now that we're out of the Battlehawk season, but maybe they'll pick it back up next year. But welcome everybody back to this week. Lots to cover on the St. Louis side. So apologize, Elliott. There's so much content. Mike even felt motivated enough to take it outside. He didn't want his family to hear him. We're gonna have to get into what we're seeing happen down near the river. That's just a lot to go off of here. And I know, Elliott, that Pete's wound me up a couple weeks and got me going on what I'm seeing from the club this year. But whatever we're seeing.
It's not like we have a lot to be excited about right now. It's been a very tough few weeks. I'm sorry, 5 weeks. It's been a very tough 5 weeks.
Well, we're not used to this. It's a new thing on this side of the rivalry, right? But it was bound to happen.
Right.
But Mike, like to welcome you to the show. I know you've been on with me before on various other podcasts, but we're a distance from St. Louis, but I think I feel it as though I was there.
No, I'm with you. I'm closer to St. Louis than you are, just right outside of Nashville. But, you know, I have a lot of my friends that are nearby that are Cardinals fans. They come to me and they say, why are they so bad? And I'm like, because they never called and asked me what to do. I've been telling them for years to get more pitching and some better bats, but instead, no. And their hard work is paying off. They're now tied for the second worst record in the National League.
And they were worst. They did spend time in first place, first meaning worst team in the National League. And
they're not as bad as the Athletics, though.
No, that's hard to beat. That's actually, yeah. I don't know how that's even possible. What are they? Like, I checked it last night. It was like 12 and
14 and 50.
14 and 50. Though they're on a 2-game winning streak.
Yeah.
Great. I don't know. You can't call 2 a streak yet, right?
I didn't actually publish it yet. I did a short little episode earlier today, and the reason I didn't publish it is I just kept saying, you know, it's not as bad as the Athletics, and then I realized if I'm having to say it's not as bad as that, it's pretty bad.
How have you? Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, when you even when you say you're down there with Colorado, which we all expected to be a bad team this year, we clearly expected the Pirates to be in this position at some point in time, right? As we worked our way through the year, and here we are, man. We're looking up at everybody, and I would have to go back to the days before I even joined the military, and that's been a really long time ago, guys. Before I tuned out on Cardinals baseball, and that might have been 94, 95, if I remember those years correctly. Those were pretty ugly, right? Until a change was made. That, of course, being ownership at that point in time. But even since then, when the Cardinals weren't looking or performing to their expectations the way they wanted to do it, there was a period of time where they would give the team that facelift or that renovation if needed. And we can go through examples of that later. But this is, I don't know, Elliot, it's probably fun to watch from your side. But then again, when both teams are down here like this, it's just, you're usually like, they're either competing near the top of the division or one's down, one's up. This is a first for all of us that here they are both at the bottom.
Both at the bottom right now, and both are doing their best to try to get to the bottom. And neither team, their expectations were anywhere near this at all. I mean, you had the Cubs who started hot in the first 2 months and then just have totally cooled off. I mean, they've seen, which was one of their bright spots at the beginning of the year, was the bullpen, just absolutely have started to implode. I mean, the bus to Iowa,
we know that feeling. Yeah,
been gassed up because it is going back and forth right now between guys who are doing well and guys who are not. And right now it's about riding the hot hand until it's not hot anymore and then sending them to Iowa and bringing up that next person. Yeah. So
that's at least a game plan. All our hot hands get sent back down to Memphis where they stay until they cool off.
It's true. Yeah, they've got it ass backward. And I don't know. It's really, I used this analogy the other day. It is the problems they have with the roster even going into a season. Like it's amazing how thousands of us that you see out there on social media or people that you just talk to that are Cardinals fans are all pointing at the same thing. Hell, even the Cubs fans here are pointing at the same problem. They're like, your pitching is going to be a problem. We've been saying it for 3 years now, and it is incredible. So you could literally pull up next to the Cardinals front office in a car, pull up right next to them, point out that, hey, your wheel's going to fall off. Mo will roll that window down, and that son of a bitch will tell us, no, it's not going to fall off. Just be patient. Like, no, your wheel's going to fall off.
I loved the meme that you posted the other day with the analogy with Saw Gerrera. I mean, when I read it in his voice.
Well, didn't I? I had it as
nice,
but I had it as part. Hold on, you're talking about. Did you hear the intro from last week? You don't bother listening to our episodes. You're not on, right?
Not all the time.
Yeah, because you're a narcissist. Okay, here was I'll just play a snippet from the intro of last week.
I'd ask from our.
Oh yeah, here that's it. Sorry, I thought I hit the wrong button.
I'd ask from our fan base right now is a little bit of patience.
Lies!
So just be patient.
Deception!
I really just ask for people's patience in all of this.
Every day, more lies.
That's what I put at the beginning. Yeah, a little mashup I did.
That is amazing.
It's fun to do.
Good.
It's fun to do.
Yeah.
And whoever put that YouTube clip of, and Mike, you've seen it, right? Mo just using the word patience over and over again, and he's been using it for years, right? That's a very, very popular clip, so it was an easy target.
In 4 weeks, that patience is going to run out, and it's going to become trade deadline time.
Yeah, I want to get into that because, again, we're in such new territory here, just being here in the first place. But, Mike, many fans are reacting like this is a now problem. This just happened this year now. But this has been in the works, right? I mean, and it's really lots of theories on when this downfall started. In your opinion, though, looking at what they've done over the years, like it's been a culmination of a lot. It's come to a head in 23. It's not a 23 problem. It's been a problem for a while now, and now it's come to a head this year.
No, absolutely. You've been saying this. I've been saying this. I think we're the only two, maybe Brian in the Gateway City Sports. I think it was about 3 years ago. And they're talking so big about Jack Flaherty. Jack Flaherty's going to be the next ace. Jack Flaherty's the man, because he was good for about 2 months in 2019. And same thing Carlos Martinez did. The three of us, there might have been more, but I know the three of us were saying that ain't it.
Yeah,
he ain't.
I think he had a good
guy.
he had a good back half of 2019, right? That's what it was, or was it the front half? I don't recall, but
it was like June and July, or maybe July and August, but it was towards the end of the season.
So it was
and
like
he blew up.
It was like the Matt Carpenter salsa crap from 2018, where he was really good in July and August, and then yeah.
And that's the thing about these Cardinals prospects; they're really good until they aren't, and they aren't a lot of the time, because there's that infamous story now where Max Scherzer where he was initially a free agent, leaving the Tigers before he went to the Nationals,
right?
Where he said he was just waiting for St. Louis to call him, just waiting, and they never did.
And he's one of the few big deals that actually, I think he lived up to expectations of that contract, where we see so many of them that don't.
How many Cy Youngs did he win? 2?
Yeah, I think he might have won 2. Yeah, with the Nationals. In a World Series championship to boot, right? So, but how many, Elliott? We've done. It's impossible to write out the list of big major league free agent signings over the years that have actually lived up to that contract at the end of that contract. And Max Scherzer is one of the very, very few. I would throw John Lester's deal that he had. Wasn't as long
with Chicago.
I would say
he lived up to the expectations that the team had of him.
Yeah,
so
I would say so too. I mean, he fell off a little bit in the I think the last couple of years, but that was
38.
expected. But that was expected, though. I mean, you sign those deals sometimes thinking, "Hey, I'm going to capitalize on
for
it
the
early."
window that you thought you were going to win, which was 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019, and the Cubs were in the playoffs every single one of those years, if not the NLCS or the World Series.
I'd say that regardless of all that, Elliott, he's always going to be remembered as a Cardinals legend, I think, just from his work he did in 2021, I think.
Well, same thing with, oh my gosh, he was that guy that came to us. He was a starting pitcher and he was our closer in like the mid to late 2000s.
Starting pitcher and then he was a closer. Franklin?
Yeah. No, oh my gosh, who was that? No, it wasn't Franklin. This guy was a big name, and Smoltz, Smoltzy.
Oh, Smoltz,
John Smoltz.
Yeah. 2009
Cardinals legend,
Fernando Valenzuela, Cardinals legend.
Well, you're talking about deals that panned out real quick. Short-term deal, but Carlos Beltran.
That was great. That was a good deal.
12 and 13.
Yep. Those work. But I mean, I guess point being is, he was. You're right. I mean, he's been on record of showing heavy interest. He's a native of St. Louis. He was interested in going back there, but they weren't interested in him. And that was a point in time too, Elliott, where, and it still shows today, that this front office has to be the smartest guys in the room. Like, they knew something that nobody else did, and they knew that what they had in their system and their model was going to trump any free agent that was willing to entertain an offer from St. Louis. We got it covered.
Yeah, they got it covered because Mo has wet dreams about being Billy Bean in 2001. That's his whole thing. He wants to be the guy that says, "These are my guys. I don't have to spend money to win."
Well, and there's lots of things there. I actually trace, in my mind at least, a lot of this as the slow progression to what we're looking at this year. If I go all the way back really into 2014, and you might be able to trace it back farther than that, but I really look at the dominoes started. The first domino to fall, I believe, was Oscar Tavares passing away in the offseason of 2014. It was an overreaction to deal for Hayward, trading away Shelby Miller, which ended up not being a big deal. He's never really made a huge mark. And there's another name in there too, I'm forgetting, but
But there's a couple of names the last few years that have probably Cardinals fans.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah,
seething.
Those are dominoes that can just continue to fall. But I think the first one was the Cardinals' future. Their next, never going to be an Albert Pujols, but the next closest thing to having an Albert Pujols was supposed to be Oscar Tavares.
Real fast. Are we sure he was everything he said he was going to be?
Well, we don't know that because we barely saw him.
I mean, we're never going to know that. Yeah. But that's something I always preach. The Cardinals are always so big on all these prospects, and there's really no reason to be.
Well,
because unless it's, I'm not saying he was a bad one. I'm just saying 90% of prospects are fodder.
Yeah, and the thing is, we'll never know with him, right? We saw such a small, minuscule sample size. We didn't know, but there's no doubt it was a big part of their future plan, and that got disrupted. And I think you started to see crazy shit happening after that. You know, Hayward signs away, then they bring in Fowler to bat leadoff and play center field, and then he ends up batting 8th, 9th, and playing right field half the time. And you another example, latest example being Contreras. He signed to be a catcher. Now you're going to DH him or start him in the outfield, start him at first base. Like, it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. The craziness that the way they handle these situations. But I mean, yeah, go ahead.
The managerial choices have also gotten worse and worse and worse.
I'd say that
Mike Shilt's the only high point since La Russa.
I agree. You know, that and that whole situation is, well, I mean, I point to the front office. There was pushback. There was somebody that wasn't going to say yes, that wasn't going to buy into everything that the front office was trying to push down, that he obviously disagreed with something. I don't know if it had anything to do with analytics, their use of it, or their over-reliance on it. Just not sure. But there was what Mo said, a fundamental disagreement. You know, again, like, I don't know if we'll ever know what that is. Schilt hasn't really come out and said it. There's been theories on what that might be, but we've seen what's happened to the defense and base running since then, right? Like, he emphasized that thing. And yes, I know it's the players that do it, right? Ultimately, the performance has to fall on them. But if you have an organization or a manager who's not prioritizing things, then you'll see those things fall off. Fundamental baseball started collapsing under Mike Matheny. Fundamental baseball never collapsed under Tony La Russa. He was big on those things.
Mike Shilton brought it back too.
He did,
for the most part.
He did. They were tops in the league in defense. Now it helps having Paul Goldschmidt over at first base. Like, that'll correct a lot of that. That'll give the rest of that infield a lot of forgiveness, right? When you have
Arenado at third.
Arenado at third.
Yeah.
So one way to do it, obviously, is to bring in better defenders, and so you're going to improve defense. But base running was a big thing too that they were terrible on before. And again, in just a short amount of time, they are one of the worst base running teams in baseball. And if you've watched them over this last week, it's laughable how bad they've become at base running.
Well, and just how bad they've become overall. I mean, even defensively. Normally, you don't see Goldschmidt or Arenado or guys like that look out at sorts at times as they have. You know,
yeah.
I mean, it's not just defensively. You look at the plate. Arenado's, I don't know what's going on with him at the plate. Sometimes he swings at some 0-2 stuff. Then I'm like, what are you?
I don't know.
What are you doing?
He's trying to hit a grand slam with two guys on.
Is that a part of the game plan that they should normally have, where you sit down and you go over what this pitcher normally throws on certain counts, that sort of thing? Is the preparation not there that was there with Tony La Russa and Mike Shildt, that these coaches aren't sitting down and having these players go through?
I doubt it.
What did Ollie do the other day? He pulled a pitcher who was doing fine.
Yeah, I know.
And brought in what's his name?
It was I don't know. Was it Montgomery? He pulled out a little bit too early.
He pulled Montgomery and replaced him with oh my gosh, I got to pull up the MLB app.
This is how much
I'm not paying attention.
Stratton, Hagen, Hicks.
Stratton. It was Stratton.
Okay, I knew it had to be one of them.
Began with an S.
Yeah. So. Yeah, we've seen a lot of that too. You can definitely question some of his moves, some of the lineups he's put out there, who he's resting, who he's not. Elliot, to answer your question, I doubt that they're not going over some kind of game plan, but the bottom line is, like, this team has some major defects in the roster, and I think one of the problems that I don't hear a lot, but I talked about it a little while ago with somebody else, is just chemistry of the team. Buying into the strategy, accepting your role. And when I see three guys nearly run into each other on the base paths, you know, I that screams to me that this team is just not playing well together.
I think there's another team in baseball that is kind of like that right now, and that's why you see an underperformance, is the Chicago White Sox.
Absolutely right. Yeah,
they are a team that, for the most part, is the same. But there's something has happened internally where that team is there. There's no camaraderie there, which it has gotten better lately, but these first few months of the season, they have just looked like they've looked like 9 guys out on the field trying to play baseball instead of a team out on the field playing baseball together.
Yeah, and Mike, you're probably gonna say we see the same thing right now. Like there's something wrong.
There is something wrong, and I was going to say, you lost Yachty, you lost Pujols, and as good as players as Goldschmidt and Arenado are, they really kind of need to step up and be the leaders that the team signed them to be. Because I mean, you have to think Goldschmidt knew when Yachty was gone, Waino was probably going to be gone not long after him. This is Waino's last year. This is Goldschmidt's team. This is Arenado's team. And I don't see a lot of leadership maybe there's stuff behind closed doors. Maybe they're not good at it. Yeah. But there's nobody trying to rally the team together. I know Goldschmidt had a team meeting not that long ago, and they started to do somewhat better, but that seems to have fallen off. Like there needs to be a consistent presence.
Yeah. And you had, in I'd say the Cardinals' heyday, you had guys like Chris Carpenter that, you had more than one. You had several, right?
You had Rollins, Edmonds.
Yep. And Jimmy Ballgame's been all over this team. If you've been listening to
that Holiday more recently.
Jim Edmonds.
and most whine and bitch about him on social media, and I can't stand listening to him. But he's been entertaining this week, if nothing else. If the games haven't been entertaining, Jim has, and Chip has tried so many times to get him off the subject of of what the Cardinals should be doing rather than what he's seeing on the field, and Jim just will go right back to it. It's been pretty good.
So let me ask you guys a question. What do you think, and speaking of reporters trying to, go about what's on the field, without looking on MLB.com, what is the lead story about the Cardinals? Do you think it's about their struggles, their defense? What do you think it is?
If I had to guess, it can't. Don't tell me it's about Edmonds.
No, it's not. It's quote, the story behind Michaelis's quirky wardrobe. I'm like, why is that?
Is that MLB.com though?
Oh yeah, it's the
that's the worst.
Yeah.
I've verbally flogged that whole site and app for years now because it's nothing but cotton candy. Like it's giving you all teddy bears and gumdrops about everything. Like they never get into it. I say if you want to read somebody right now,
let's go to the Athletic and see what their top story is.
Athletic,
I'm sure Katie Woo's eviscerating them.
Right now, it's John Mozeliak discusses last place Cardinals. We have to figure this out from within.
Yeah, of course they've tried to
from within,
right? Like
yes.
So if you want to read, if you're fans out there and you're tired of reading the spoon-fed bullshit you get on the MLB app, don't go to that one. Go to right now. I'd say a good one to pick up on would be Bernie on Scoops with Danny Mac. He's been fair,
Bernie
but I
show's
think
good too. The podcast,
yeah.
If we can do some cross promotion,
sure, yeah. I'm sure he'll give us a shout on his tomorrow's broadcast. But he's been, I'd say, damn near spot on with his criticism, and I think it's been fair too. But that he's one of the exceptions. But MLB.com, yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that.
Well, it's and
the article after that will probably be the next bobblehead giveaway.
Oh yeah. Well, you're talking about, Elliott was just talking about Mo saying we got to figure this out from within, and maybe we can talk about this. It's something I thought I would never see. The Cardinals will be sellers at the deadline. They're going to take this deadline and try to shed some of this extra weight. You're not going to get rid of Goldie or Arenado, but you're going to get rid of like Tyler O'Neill. He's gone.
Yeah, I was done with that one a couple of years ago. I agree with you. I think you're right. I think Jack Flaherty's likely to be gone too. Look, the thing, how they've handled like prospects in these rookie situations, they've never, because they've been on record as stating that they're going to be in it, they're going to compete, and they've been able to hide in a very weak division, right? They've been provided air cover from the National League Central for years. They don't have that luxury this year, and they are going to be a unique position to be a seller. I totally agree with you, and that should scare the hell out of us because have they ever done this? And when they do big things like this or do they ever capitalize on it? I'd say not really.
Do they know how to be sellers at the deadline?
No. No.
The thing is, I mean, you're not going to get a massive haul for Tyler O'Neill.
No, you won't. No.
You're not going to get a big haul for Jack Flaherty. I'm trying to think of anybody else.
If anything, Mike,
they could possibly trade.
I mean, Montgomery should be a chip that they can deal.
Yeah. Maybe Dylan Carlson.
I call him the extremely light hitting Dylan Carlson. But yes, unless I don't know. Do you think they're that enamored with Tommy Edman in center field that they're gonna? I guess they got Newbar coming.
Maybe.
Newbar will eventually be back off the IL.
But you've got Mason Wynn on the way too. So Tommy Edman could be
expendable.
Somebody it's up.
What they need to do, and do I think they're going to get an excellent haul for anything that's going to immediately impact the roster and get them back into the race? I don't see how they're possibly going to do that even if they're selling off. But by selling off, finally, hopefully, they clear out whatever logjam they've created over the years and give other young guys a sustainable opportunity to see what they can do rather than pulling them up for a month or 2 weeks and then sending them back down. I'd rather see at this point, bring some of this young crop up and let them get some sustained playing time so you can truly evaluate what you have.
Quick question. Goldschmidt has a year and a half left on his deal, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to trade Goldie. Goldie is one of my favorite players. He's my son's favorite player. Love him. But if worse came to worse, do you think the Cardinals, given that he has a year and a half left, fairly affordable considering the other talent, considering his talent and the cost for it, do you think they would try to move him for a big haul of prospects? He'd have to approve it.
Yeah, he's got.
I'm pretty sure he's got a no trade clause.
Him and Arenado both do, and I believe Contreras does too. But Contreras is in the first year of something; he's not going anywhere right now. But I would have to think that in their minds, if you give them truth serum, Mike, that I'd say they'd be willing to listen in on just about anybody at this point.
Well, you're not moving Arenado; that's too much money.
No, I doubt it, especially the way he's performed this year. I don't know who would want to absorb that. If he's coming off the year he had last year. We've argued on here many times, he may have been able to get a better deal this offseason when they were throwing all kinds of money around, but not now.
Yeah, that was a bad move on his part, unless he just loves St. Louis that much. And I feel bad for the guy because I feel like Mo lied to him.
Well, I feel the same way about Contreras too. What kind of shit sandwich did you sign up for in the offseason that you didn't, that you thought was going to be a lot better? And here, welcome, right?
But in on the Contreras situation, and Elliott, I know you can speak to this. I think if you were a pretty ardent fan of the Cardinals and you were looking at the catching prospects, not actual prospects, but like people you could bring in to be catcher after Yachty, most serious baseball fans knew that Contreras as an actual catcher wasn't that great. Which is why I think all the hate he's getting. I'm like, we knew what we were getting when we signed.
He was a third baseman. He had 2 years of catching in the minors before the Cubs brought him up in 2016. So he had to learn to become a catcher. I mean, he was still learning during that 2016 season. I mean, his bat was always great, but that was the biggest criticism Cubs fans and the front office had was his pitch framing was terrible. He had become better in the last few years, but it's still not great. Now, he's got what you would call hard hands.
But I would say this though, Elliot. Like you're right. But if you look at it today, he's a middle of the road defensive catcher. He's not a detriment, right?
Well, he's got a fucking cannon.
He does.
And
he has a cannon.
You're not gonna run on him.
He has a cannon.
But he's not gonna get you those strikes that Yachty did behind the plate.
And well, here's the most frustrating part. There's not anything you can do about it now at this point.
No.
But the Cardinals could have had Sean Murphy for basically nothing. And Mo told the Athletics no. I'm not going to give you Newt Barr and whoever else.
Yeah, I can't remember who's
big mistake.
Brendan Donovan was another one in that potential deal, and you're right. I don't remember the other name, but yeah, you love to hear sound bites like that afterwards, right? But they're going to be sellers. I think they need to be, and I think that being this bad this year. I think they have to be. How far do they take it, Mike, is really what I wonder, right? Are they really going to – is it a major renovation? Is it a little bit of an overhaul? Like, what do they need to do? They need to clear out some space, and are they going to spend anything in the offseason, right? Because they can't – I know Mo likes to think we can address this from within. I agree. That's probably the only option you have today is to address things from within. I'm thinking ahead to next year, year after. I know they are too, but they can't long-term fix this just from within. They're going to have to acquire they're going to have to acquire a bit.
They're going to have to spend money.
They have to supplement.
They can't go out and get the 38-year-old Rich Hill or 40-year-old Rich Hill.
Like 45.
At the deadline. That's not what's going to help. You need to trade prospects or some major league ready players to bring somebody in that you either think you can sign a long-term extension with or that is under long-term control.
Yeah, I don't know.
If you ask me, they need to trade off any dead weight they can. Tyler O'Neill, maybe a couple of relievers, Jack Flaherty. Jack Flaherty's gone at the end of the year anyway. That doesn't matter.
That's gone. You might as well get something. All right.
So he's gone. But other than that, I don't really want to see him make any reactionary moves right now because I don't think it's going to help.
No, I agree. Now's not the time. You're not going to get anything for these guys right now.
No.
All right, how about this? Do you think at this point, after this season, you start actually getting serious and say rebuild?
Jesus, I thought you were going to say Shohei Ohtani, and I was just going to shut the podcast off.
No, he's not going to St. Louis.
Okay, well, I don't think so either.
He's going to be a Met.
Plus, you guys won't spend that money anyways.
No, he's going to be in one of the 4 big locations. He's either going to be in Houston, Chicago, L.A., or New York. That's his destination.
Well, no, here's the other thing that you guys may not think is going to happen, but I do. Ollie and Mo and Gersh, they're all going to be gone.
You think so?
If this continues like this in the year, they're going to be gone. DeWitt's going to bring in a whole fresh, brand new team, and he's probably going to be scared about the bottom line, and he'll probably overreact and say, you go get me a team that's going to win. He may not say, get me a team that's going to win the World Series, but one thing we do know about DeWitt, he may not chase the World Series, but he wants to contend. He wants to win the division.
Yeah.
Or at least be in the playoffs. And Mo's already been talking about how he's got a succession plan in place. So he's already looking at being on the way out.
Yeah, they said he extended through 2025, right? But we've heard the same thing. Like that's probably his last
This
run.
is his last contract, but I think he's gone at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Like all these bad moves, all the players that he traded away that are not just doing well, but thriving.
Yeah.
In Tampa, Arizona,
you got freaking Ted
else.
Williams did the playing baseball down in Tampa.
Well, that's
I know.
And Ellie, I know you brought that up earlier, and I eventually thought we would get to it. But yeah, you go through the laundry list, Mike, of guys that they really didn't give a shot, really didn't get a good read on, and you start with, look, now start with Rosarina is the elephant in the room, right? When you talk about bad deals,
Zach Gallen
and Gallen and Sandy Alcantara. Now, when these deals were made at the time, you kind of understood why the Cardinals made the deals at the time. The Ozuna trade, Gallen and Alcantara were part of that. You understood it. You understood at least why they did it at the time. Ozuna was not their target. They really wanted Yelich and Stanton. But the Cardinals desperately needed something in the middle of the order. Remember, this is pre-Paul Goldschmidt. This is when they tried to make Matt Carpenter into a centerpiece of the lineup, and he couldn't do it. And so they were desperate.
Well, and that's the problem. If he doesn't get what he wants, he still pays top flight price for like a middle of the road type player. And Ozuna wasn't bad for the Cardinals. I think he could have been better. But
he had the one good year. Up. He had the one good year with Miami, right? And
his shoulder was injured, and then the moment he goes to Atlanta, his shoulder's fixed. And before all that other crap he went through, the domestic stuff, he was pretty good.
Yeah. He was having a good. It was 2020 campaigns when you're pointing at. Yeah. He was playing well then, but even when the Cardinals made that deal, you understood why. But none of them have worked out. And you look up and you see Adolis Garcia and a Rosarina near the top of whatever column you want to click on for rankings, home runs, RBI, slugging percentage. You see these guys the Cardinals just refuse to get a good look at, and they place their bets on guys like Tyler O'Neill, Harrison Bader, and whoever else. And it's piled up now, Mike, to where you can't ignore that they have an inability to evaluate their own talent.
No, I think they can evaluate their own talent. I honestly think Mo, like you mentioned it, he wants to be the smartest person in the room. He probably knew Arozarena was a really good player, but he's probably thinking, I'll get more bang for my buck from Ozuna. I got Adolfo Garcia, but I got these other guys coming up. And I do want to give Mo credit because he absolutely robbed Arizona and Colorado to get Arenado.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, that is an understatement.
Didn't you guys get compensation picks for those guys too?
Yeah, and the Rockies are still paying part of the Rockies are paying part of the contract for Arenado still.
Well, but the problem, I think the rub is with those deals though, Mike, they stopped at that. Like in both instances, 19 and 21, like they made those big splash moves and then they just stopped when they clearly needed a little bit more. And if you always look at it, you point back and they needed more pitching. They need more pitching. We've said it for years in a row now. And 2 years in a row, they've had to go out and grab guys at the deadline. And
they need pitching and they still need one more bat.
You weren't spending anything for the big bats that you got, so you had plenty of money to go get pitching.
Yeah, and it doesn't work that way.
What Goldschmidt's making 25, 26 million, 24?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Somewhere in the mid-20s. Well, you got a good value for him last year.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you can't. So the Goldschmidt deal is going to be one of those ones that worked out. He's never had a bad year for St. Louis.
Yeah, I would think
and
so.
He won the MVP.
He's been pretty steady, and his year is not. His power numbers are down, but his year hasn't been terrible this year either.
No,
just every time I watch him.
Is he the best player on the roster right now?
You'd have to say, yeah. I would. Yeah. Oh, well, I mean,
and he's 36, 37.
I think he's 37.
Is he? I thought he was younger than that. A couple years. Maybe I'm
wrong.
I
have a handy handheld computer. I can find out.
Well, you could also make an argument, I guess, for Nolan Gorman if you want, a runner-up to most valuable player on the team. That's not saying much on the last place Central Division.
35.
35. That's the number.
Wow, we were way off.
That was the number that was floating around in my head. But yeah. So I mean, he's coming up to the end of it too. I don't know. This is going to be new territory. I don't know how they're going to handle it. We haven't seen him really truly be in sell mode ever. So I don't know. I cannot wait to see where the dust settles on August. What's the deadline this year? Is it actually July 31st or some weird date like
August
4th? Well,
I think it's always July 31st.
They've moved it a couple years to like August 1st or something like that. But when the dust settles in August, I'm really anxious to see what this team, where they're at, what their plan is, at least a direction. Mike, you mentioned that earlier. Like that's the thing that's driven us nuts over the years. Like, are you going to go with the youth movement? Are you not? Are you gonna this log jam that you've had for like 5 years in the outfield? Are you actually gonna clear that?
August 1st.
August 1st. See, you looked at me like I was nuts.
So
you looked at me like I was talking about soccer.
Well, technically it's July 31st because I think it ends August 1st. So
all right.
I'll make some predictions for you.
Okay.
And you can tell me if I'm crazy or not.
That's what I want to hear.
So you're probably if they can, Jordan Montgomery, Steven Matz, Jack Flaherty, I'd say Brendan Donovan, Paul DeYoung, maybe Juan Yepes. They'll all be gone. Some, maybe not all of them, but of that list of names, I'd say 3 or 4.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with most of those. Donovan might have to be a package deal with somebody. I do like that player though. I do like the utility player. What I miss though is somewhat the steadiness that you get from an everyday lineup, guys in everyday positions. It still kills me they've talked for years about this outfield logjam. You look up and you see infielders in the outfield. You have outfielders you want to play or not. Why'd you bring Baker up? Like that kind of thing.
It's nothing new though. If you remember after we lost Edgar Renteria, they had a different shortstop. It felt like every year until what's his name from Detroit?
Peralta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every year.
Yep.
1 year deals.
Yep. That was
including Cardinal legend Khalil Green.
Forgot about him. That's good recall there. Didn't he like flame out like mid-year, just couldn't play anymore? Like
he had some kind of like anxiety issue.
Yeah.
Like he couldn't do it.
Yeah. Well, I feel bad for that guy, but gosh, I totally forgot about him. Yeah, they thought he was going to be an answer, but
Didn't you? 2013. Who was the?
That's Peralta.
Yeah, that was Peralta.
Or
No, not in 2013. That was Cosma.
Who was the tiny
Pete
guy?
Cosma.
Who was the
Yeah,
tiny
Pete
guy that
Cosma.
drove the
Eckstein.
Toyota Corolla? Eckstein. David Eckstein.
That,
How
man,
many
that's-
years?
That was way back, dude.
That's 06.
Is that that far? Oh my God.
06
Holy
through
shit.
08.
He was like the NLCS or World Series MVP.
World Series MVP. Yep. Yeah, he got a Corvette, by the way. Red Corvette as a gift.
Traded up from his Toyota Corolla that he was driving
He's a
around.
pretty humble guy, right?
Yeah.
He's married
didn't
to
his brother have cancer or something?
kidney. They've had that kidney
yeah.
disease that runs in that family. Yeah, so they've had to swap kidneys around. But I don't know. Big fans of his, Elliott. I mean, he's married to Ahsoka, for crying out loud. So,
He looks like
married to
Matt
who?
Dust.
he's married to a voice of a Star Wars character, Mike. But
We
won't go off
in
in this.
Ahsoka? I thought you were talking about the WWE wrestler.
Yeah.
I forget
That'd be
about the Star Wars connection here. I'm a big Star Wars fan too.
Yeah. But yeah, so there's lots to come. Elliott, you're gonna have a little fire sale yourself there in Chicago because you've got all those 1-year contracts.
These next 4 weeks are going to be pretty telling, and right now they're down 2-1 in the 6th to the Angels. Just letting the Angels right back into the playoff talk.
How's Swanson been doing for you?
Okay, I think he's batting like 285. His defense is fantastic. Jacques
gone. He's been gone.
He's been gone for like the last month, which has been part of the problem.
Is he with
with
San
the
Fran
offense.
now? He's with San Fran again, right?
No. Oh, Jack Peterson. Yes, I was thinking Bellinger.
Sorry. I'm speaking.
You
I'm
meant
sorry.
Bellinger.
I meant Bellinger.
Okay.
Yes. So Bellinger got hurt catching a ball off the wall, and he got a cleat caught in the fence.
That shitty
What
Ivy.
I was say was down in Miami or something.
Oh,
And twisted his ankle. He's actually heading back down to Arizona Fall League to get some work in before he goes to Iowa to get some rehab in.
Man.
He has been gone for over 4 weeks, which is kind of coinciding with the way that we've been playing.
I would
I was
say
going to
he
say
has.
because he was having kind of a resurgence.
Has been batting around 300. His power's been there. Was driving in runs. He was a force in a left-handed power bat in the middle of the lineup that we do not have right now.
Yeah,
We got another guy in our podcast little network named Don, and I kept telling him we should have signed Bellinger. I told anybody who listened, they're like, no, he's going to be terrible.
He's been one of the minus him getting hurt right now. He's been best offseason.
How much did they sign him for? 17 million. So
17 million out of 1 year.
basically, basically almost like an arbiter
for 20.
Yeah, like a qualifying offer. Basically, is what he signed for. So
yeah,
and I was telling these guys, Mike, like going into this year, I'm like, this is going to be a fun year for you guys if they can play 500 ball or a little bit better. You've got this collection of castaways like Hosmer and Bellinger, and
Hosmer's gone.
Hosmer's gone. Yeah, he saw himself out. But I thought this would be more fun this year for the Cubs.
It was for
the Cubs are living Mo's
weeks.
dream.
Well,
Outcast coming to play well.
That's true. But you're in fourth place in the division. You probably expected to be there. The difference is you expected to be there. The St. Louis fans never expected their team to be in last place and to be so embedded in last place and so awful that it's
well, Ron, I'm actually going to
half a game. There's only like half a game separating us.
I actually thought the Cubs were going to finish around third.
Yeah,
I didn't have them at the bottom of the division.
I think if I go back to my prediction, I think I had them third as well.
I did too.
Yeah, but you expected at least you weren't going to be in first place at this point.
I expected to be right around that 500 between my kind of plus or minus 3 games of 500.
Yeah. Well,
so
here we are. This is a first.
Yes.
This is a first for our show, dealing with this BS all year.
We're in the mire together.
We have a long way to go too.
I don't want to be here.
Well, think about how bad you don't want to be there, and then think about all the Cardinals fans that really don't.
Crazy train.
Well, the thing is, if you want to call it mediocrity, which a lot of people do, although they've been in the fight.
Ron, it's not mediocrity.
What?
I can't even.
You want to try that again?
Yeah.
Okay.
We are at the bottom, not just in our division, but in the league.
Yeah. That's what I was getting at. Over the last several years, a lot of Cardinals social media, they call it mediocrity, the way the team has been competing. Now, for the large part, I kind of agree with that, because we know that if they were good enough to at least make the playoffs, being in a really terrible division, that they weren't going anywhere once they got there. How many playoff games have they won, like, over the last 7 years, Mike? Like one playoff game or something like that? Like, it's been pretty awful. Like one in 9
by the Padres last fall.
Well, that was the Phillies. Phillies last fall, but the Padres
Phillies
before that. Yep.
And then before that, I don't think they made the playoffs for 3 years.
Well,
that was no, never mind. For 3 years, they didn't go.
Well, the last 10 playoff games are 1 and 9, right? So we've all seen it, right? Yeah, you're good enough to win this crappy division or capture this playoff spot or this wild card spot, but we know you're not getting past your first opponent, and that's been the case, right? So part of me, it's a really strange position to be in, because I want this team to change things so badly that I find myself going, well, I can't sit at a game and root against them, but collectively, when I look at the stands and I look at the schedule coming up, I'm like, it's going to have to take that for them to finally shake this damn thing up, because this is not working.
Well, there's a couple things too that we got to keep in mind. The Cardinals have not adapted to the rule changes at all. The shifting, the bigger bases, anything like that. They seem to have, and I think Bernie talked about this, they're having trouble getting on board with some of that stuff. They're blaming the pitch clock. They're blaming everything but themselves. And on top of that, I don't know that they quite realized how much the balanced schedule was going to mess with them.
That's the one right there, man. If you talk about any of those, I can buy maybe some of the rule changes are throwing them off, but you know what? All 29 other teams have to deal with that same thing too, right? So I don't feel sorry for them in that regard, but you're right. I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. This unbalanced schedule has put a bigger spotlight on their weaknesses rather than playing the Reds, the Cubs, the Pirates 18, 19 times a year. You're now playing them 12? And now you're having to play those good teams at least once, and it's exposing them big time.
I like it a lot.
I'm sure you do.
Well,
because it exposes every team, not just the Cardinals. It exposes every team that.
No, go ahead.
No, it's just that because you're not playing the Royals, 6 times in the season, that you're usually getting 6 wins out of that.
Oh, that
and then
manufactured natural rivalry crap they try to push on us every year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but on top of that, though, the Cardinals, it is, every team does have to do that, Elliot, but the Cardinals' entire strategy is based around being in a weak division.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. You can't do that this year. At least it's not as easy.
No.
Yep. So anyway, this has been, we've had 2 weeks now on this show where we've been really chipper about the state of baseball and the state of our team. So I know it's been depressing, but we're depressed right there with you all.
Is it football season yet?
Oh, well.
Is the hockey draft coming up? Because I'm really excited.
I tell you what, though,
draft.
if St. Louis was going to have a good debut of an MLS season, they picked a good year to do it, because that's giving a lot of St. Louis fans the only reason to cheer these days has been that soccer team.
No, that's how it is here in Nashville SC.
Yeah.
You can't cheer for the Titans. They let you down.
Yeah. No, we're Bears fans, so you can talk to us all about that.
I'm Predators fan too, so, but they're not bad.
No,
they've been pretty solid the last few years.
Yeah, the Blues are bad this year, and they're probably going to be bad next year. And they, old Panger left the St. Louis Blues. Bally Sports as a broadcaster went back to the Blackhawks. So
he did today.
Yep, they lost another hit, but thank you, Bally Sports, for creating all that uncertainty about my employment future. So I'm going to go somewhere where I think it's more stable, which is why you did it.
And it's so has that happened? Did they not make the payments, and so is the streaming going to go back to MLB where you'll be able to?
It's interesting because it did in San Diego, right? San Diego was, I don't know, if Mike, if you caught that, like it was they were the first ones that.
Right,
Major League
because
Baseball,
I saw that San Diego So MLB app, like 2 days later, sent a thing out to all San Diego Padres fans who were MLB subscribers saying, hey, if you want to watch your Padres, you have to buy it in market. You can pay for that and get your in market streaming. It's $20 a month or whatever.
Yeah,
that they can do that. So
well, and no blackouts too, right?
And no blackouts, right? Because you are blacked out in market. So
yeah.
Well, the thing is, Bally Sports is probably going to stop paying all the teams after this season.
They have,
yes,
yeah.
They have already started. So I think I sent you that article, Ron. There was like seven teams where they stopped paying the lowest payments.
Yeah. Where they were the markets,
Cincinnati,
the markets where they were taking the biggest losses, they stopped paying.
Right. Yeah. Oakland, St. Louis. It's a lot of the small market teams. Arizona. So.
Well, that's been a long time coming. I hope they do something much better and get rid of these stupid blackout restrictions and get with 100%. The times. But
as long as they don't do what the NFL's doing and you can't watch the games live through their streaming service, you can only do it after the fact.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think, I'm going to try out the YouTube TV, not YouTube, but the Sunday Ticket now on YouTube starting next year. I'll be making that switch over to that one. So I'm willing to give the Bears a shot this year. Now, if I drop $300 on it and they end up going like 4-12, I'm not going to be very happy about it. I've done that before when I used to have satellite, and I was disappointed. But anyway, guys, we're up against the clock here, so I want to thank you, Mike, for lending your voice to the show tonight in Pete's absence. It certainly is a much more polished and pleasant voice than our guy who's growling and gruffing and spitting all over the microphone. So it was nice having you on for a change of pace here.
No, you gave me a chance to try out this new stuff. Rode sent me this microphone, so I'm happy to use it.
Sounds great.
It sounds really good. Going through that microphone instead of the iPad microphone.
Well, that's not my fault. I didn't pick a shoddy.
I paid top dollar for the
streaming service.
It's funny. I've paid top dollar for that streaming platform there, and we don't even use it anymore. We use it to capture the audio on it. Such an inefficient. It was like signing a bad free agent contract. I've used about 5% of that platform's capability over the years, and I've never tinkered with it and explored what else it could do. But whatever, man. Elliot, you know how I feel about the live streaming. It's a stress. I don't need it. I much prefer these audio formats only. Nobody wants to look at me or you or Pete, especially Pete. So, except whoever he's traveling with, evidently.
They've told me for years I've had a face for radio, so it's all good.
All right, gentlemen. Mike, where can everybody find you out there on Twitter? We know your podcast is 2 for 3.
Just Mike's on first. I don't tweet that much anymore. I'm actively trying to disengage from social media. I only talk to you guys in the chat.
So it's probably a good time to do it. Good time as any. I've tried to walk away many times, but Elliot, everybody knows where they can find you. TR_Elliot, right?
Yep.
And TR_Ron75. You can't find Pete. You can find him on Team Arrivals Pod though on Twitter. All right, gentlemen, we're going to wrap it up for tonight, but thanks for, again, Mike, thanks for joining us. Elliot, may see you next week, maybe not, depends. Kind of like we'll be in and out. He's like a whack-a-mole doll. He'll either be here or he won't.
I should be around next Thursday. Nothing's on the docket.
All right, well, I'll plan on it just being me and Pete then, and we'll... All right, everyone, until next week, we love y'all so much. Bye-bye.